Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about why transatlantic cruises should be a part of your early retirement plan.
Yeah, we have been traveling the world now for some years. Kind of did early retirement from our careers back in the US. And a couple years in, we just decided to try some transatlantic, trans-Pacific type cruises. And they just make so much sense for any retiree. And we're going to break down why that is, because they're just a wonderful tool to use. And the first thing is that they happen on a fairly set schedule, leaving from the US in the spring and coming back in the fall. So you can kind of plan your year around how these are going to happen, and then just pick whichever odd one you want to do along the way.
Yeah, exactly. It's nice because then you can kind of make your overall schedule and rotation of where you're going to be traveling to, or if you want to come back to the US, it's perfect because you go out on the one particular date and come back on the other. And the nice thing is, like you said, there are some kind of odd ones going out also, which we've also picked up, like when sometimes cruise lines have a brand new ship that they want to move from one place to the other. We embarked in Europe in November and ended up in the US in December, which was really cool. So
Yeah.
that was, you can pick up some odd ones like that too, but you just kind of have to really keep an eye out depending on where you are. That one just happened to work out for the fact that we were in Europe and trying to get back to the US at that time.
The next thing is that they're almost always the cheapest option. If you go on any cruise site where you can look at cruises, order them by price, and do it like 14 nights or above, they're pretty much always going to be transatlantics. They're cheaper than Trans-Pacific next. So you're saving a ton of money. You hear about people who live on a cruise ship or stay on a cruise ship for many months. The easiest way to do it cost effectively is by doing transatlantics. You can routinely get 14, 17 night cruises for $2,000 or less, which is a great value. If you're budgeting $4,000 a month for your budget, you can really make this fit and be a part of it.
Exactly. I mean, the reason too why we want to mention the companies do this is they are essentially repositioning their ships because they sail out of different areas at different times of the year because of the weather. So, you know, a lot of times they'll leave the US and head to Europe because the weather's going to be better there, or different reasons like that. And like I said earlier, sometimes you'll get those odd ones where it's just like a new ship or it's coming out of dry dock or something like that.
Next one is going to be big for us, and it really does help you overcome the jet lag. We fly around the world a lot, and this last time we flew to Tokyo, boy, it was really hard to get over that jet lag.
It was so challenging going from the US to Tokyo this time around. We had the hardest time. It probably took us a solid, I want to say 7 or 8 days to get over the jet lag. Mind you, we are very used to jet lag and flying, you know, across continents and big time zone changes. For some reason, we just got caught this time around, and it does seem to get worse and worse, I think, as we get older. So it is really nice when you're on the cruise ships. I remember when we were coming from, you know, Europe back to the US, or going from the US to Europe, whatever. Either way, you know, the time change is slow. Whether you're losing or gaining an hour, it's a slower process as opposed to doing it in one big chunk like, oh, okay, well, now it's 12-hour time difference from day to night, you know. So definitely makes a huge difference to be able to slow the process down 1 or 2 hours at a time.
Yeah, I remember in Tokyo thinking this is why they call it the land of the rising sun, because we're seeing the sunrise every morning, and it was like at 4 a.m. and I was ready to be done seeing the sunrise in Tokyo.
Yes, it was beautiful, but we're not really morning people.
Yeah. The next thing is that it's very cost effective. So most early retirees or retirees will be traveling the world, but needing to go back to the US to visit friends, visit family, visit children, and so forth. And that's the case for us. So you do need to go back. Now, if you're just going to fly back, you're just going to lose that money. It's just money that you're spending, and you're spending $1,500 in one day to get there. Whereas if you spend $1,800 on a cruise, it's a little bit more, but you've also gotten 2 weeks basically free food and free lodging, because you can subtract what you would have spent on your airfare if that was a place you were going. So we think it's really cost effective if you plan it out in a way that makes sense.
Right, and because we do travel full time, we're never in a hurry to where we're going. So it doesn't matter. We take the slow road. If you follow any of our other channels, our Grounded Life Travel channel is a lot about our train travels. And people are constantly saying, oh, you could get there so much faster if you flew. I know that, but I want to go slow because I'm not in a hurry. I want to take my time and enjoy the views out the window. And that's the same thing with, these transatlantic and transpacific cruises is you can take your time and you'll enjoy some ports along the way and just take the easy way and relax all the way back and slow the process down because we're just never in a hurry.
Yeah, if you want more options for how we plan out these types of things, we do have a lot of videos on our Grounded Life Finances channel, which more talks about retirement, early retirement, budgeting, planning, and all that type of stuff. So check that out if you're interested in that. The next thing is that you get to visit a lot of new countries that you wouldn't necessarily fly to. We've been to a lot of countries that we probably wouldn't have just gone to, but they were great to go see just for a day.
Exactly. It's nice to kind of pop in and get a taste of some of these places. And some of them actually we end up thinking, we should come back here and spend a longer time. And other times it's just like, oh, that was cool to get to visit that and experience. Probably won't come back, but it was nice because we got to see it and know what it was like.
This one is kind of big too. It's that being on a cruise, especially a transatlantic one, back to the US is a good transition back to America. It really does help you with that culture shock. If you've spent like 6 months in Asia or 6 months in Europe and then you come back to America, just landing in New York City day one, it's a shock to the system because things are so different than what you've been experiencing. When you're on a cruise though, it's kind of like an in-between point. So there's going to be a lot of other Americans on the cruise which you haven't seen in 6 months, but the staff is going to be foreign still. It's going to be English is going to be spoken. It's going to be a good transition back. People talk about reverse culture shock a lot, and it is real. When you've been in Asia specifically, and you fly back to America, it's so different culturally that you're going to struggle those first few days in America. But if you get on a cruise and kind of come back, it's kind of like being in baby America because you're dealing with a bunch of Americans and it's you're kind of reintegrating slowly instead of all at once. And I think it's just an easier way to do it.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a key point that it's kind of like the jet lag where you're doing it little by little. On the ship, it's again little by little making your way back to the US because like you said, you've got foreigners for the most part who are the staff members on the ship, but then you've got a mix of foreigners and usually quite a few Americans as well on the ship trying to make their way back as well. So it's really a nice mix because English is the default language, like everything is in English, and you're doing a lot less translating, and you're having to use your Google Translate a lot less and things like that. And just culturally, I think the way that things are done is a little bit different. So it does kind of help you that when you get back to the US, especially the cruises the repositioning cruises that end up in New York. Imagine we've done it before, come back from being gone for 8 months or something and being in Europe and then landing in some place like New York is just like, talk about rip the Band-Aid off. That is challenging. That reverse culture shock really is more challenging than you expect if you've not had it happen before.
Then you're going to save on stress because a lot of times we'll have something planned and we've been on so many flights that have either been late or delayed, or they make you wait another day to go, canceled because of weather. Cruises are almost never late. I mean, you can count on it one hand how many times you hear of cruises showing up late to a port, and it's pretty rare. So we just don't worry about being on a cruise because they're almost never late, and they're never late by like a day, which, like, you know, we travel Amtrak a lot. It's routinely late by 10 to 12 hours. So being on a cruise is kind of stress-free in that regard. And then kind of along with that, a cruise is going to put you at a better location oftentimes than an airport, specifically in a place like New York.
Absolutely. As he said, we do take the trains a lot. So if our kids live in Chicago and LA, so we take the trains a lot. And from when we land in New York, it's easy, you know, we can walk from the cruise port in New York City to Moynihan Train Hall, hop on a train and be on a train within an hour of getting off of the cruise and our train leaving, which is really quite crazy. And even last time that we landed back in New York City, we left from that same day. We had a flight to Japan from New York City, coming back from our cruise from Europe.
Yeah, and we did that because we were pretty sure it wasn't going to be late. So
exactly.
we took the gamble, and it wasn't late, and so we saved. You know, we did that because we were saving $300 on a New York hotel. We didn't want to just spend a night in New York for no reason. So there's a lot of good reasons here to consider transatlantic cruises. Let us know if you've been on one, what you thought about it, how it plays into your retirement planning, if at all. But we think it's a vital part of planning because it's going to save you money, let you see a lot of things, and really reduce the stress on yourself.
Exactly. Guys, hopefully this is helpful to you. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Give us a like if you enjoyed this content, and we'll see you next time.